Hey there, brewers, vinters, and chillers. In today's journey, we rank sanitizers because that's what cool kids do. And after brewing and vinting for 11 years, 6 of which I was employed by 2 different homebrew supply shops, so we not only have my own experience to draw upon, but all the complaints of all the customers that have something to say. Like how I'm just trying to upsell them on Star San so that I get a higher commission. If commission was real at a homebrew shop, I'd sell them Saniclean, because you have to use twice as much of it to make the same amount. But let's get into this. Check the description for more specific details. But one of my favorite parts about Saniclean and Star San is that you can spray it. Use the coarse setting, of course. And that's not the only reason that these sanitizers end up being the top of almost everyone's list, with their only downside being that they're kind of pricey compared to some of the other options, especially compared to the oxygen-based ones. And yeah, being able to dose it out with syringes is cool and all, but it's nothing compared to being able to do a litmus test. Why is that the coolest thing that you're not doing? Because you can mix up Star San ahead of time and just have it ready to go. As long as it's below a pH of 3, it's still good. Use distilled water for best results, like in this spray bottle that's been going for over a week and still usable. Something that only these acid-based sanitizers can offer. And although both of them contain phosphoric acid, they do both have a strength over the other. It's just not sprayage or storage based. And although probably one of the largest complaints about Star San, it's actually a feature, the amount it foams. If you've always hated Star San because of how much it foams, try Saniclean. It's low foam. That's the point. But it's not a bug, it's a feature. That means that the foam is actually there by design so that it can get into all the nooks and crannies that might be harder for the liquid to reach. If you're experiencing excess foaming, then that's probably because you're either using hot water or over mixing Star San to water. Regardless, the foam is mostly water anyways, and phosphoric acid is in the water system. Therefore, don't fear the foam. But this all comes at a trade-off. The Star San has a contact time of 30 seconds to 3 minutes, whereas the Saniclean is 2 minutes to 3 minutes. So yeah, Star San is a lot more convenient, and that is why it nabs the sweet spot. Its only downside is that it's expensive, but you get what you pay for, and it has no other downside, unless foaming is a downside to you. And we're not going to get into a huge price comparison on everything, but even though the retail price of Star San is higher than the others, you actually use a lot less of it and often buy less over time. Especially when you switch over to the sprayers, you just use a lot less sanitizer. Just as a reference, we've been using this jar for about a year now. The other one's just a stage prop so that it looks nice on camera. It's getting kind of old. Saniclean, on the other hand, is something that I've sold for years but only recently got into for its low foaming action. But its extended contact time that's required to sanitize, not cool. So it gets bumped down a grade. It's still great, it's just there's other products that are on its same level. And there can only be one, so if I had to pick between the two, it's gonna be Star San every time. Big sorry to the Easy Clean fanboys out there. Alright, so now that I've waxed non-poetically for about 3.5 minutes about how great Star San and Saniclean is, let's move on to some of the other products and specify the difference between cleaning and sanitizing. For example, dish soap is for cleaning your dishes. Not even your beer glass should be touching dish soap, unless it's covered with food scum and other oils from cooking. Especially if it's a scented or other like moisturizing style of dish soap where it can leave a film on the inside of your carboys. Oh my god, just please stop this little joke about using dish soap in brewing. It's like using olive oil in place of engine oil. It's a don't do it. The best worst option is bleach. Unscented, on everything else, just normal bleach. Scary, yes, but acceptable for a worst case scenario. From midnight emergencies to being incarcerated, 1 tablespoon of bleach to a gallon of water, let soak for 20 minutes, and then let dry completely. Some people will recommend rinsing with boiled water just to make sure that there's no residual bleach flavor. Yeah, so not ideal, but better than dish soap. And yeah, I do know a lot of people who do use bleach as their main sanitizer because they're cheap. They'll tell you so. They make fine beer, they just use bleach. Most of the time, it's because they've been brewing for so long, these other sanitizers weren't options yet. And if it don't broke, don't fix it. And of course, don't worry, relax, have a homebrew. One you should never use, isopropylene alcohol. It's not even food grade. It's medical grade. Yeah, except for this bottle's not. Well, let's just agree that it's too far the other way. Sure, yeah, in a post-apocalyptic era, rubbing alcohol can be used as is, no diluting needed for sanitizing. But if you're living in that kind of world, you probably want that for medical uses instead. Something else that you should save for just the right moment is liquor, which is borderline useless for most sanitizing purposes, but it does get a pass because there is a time where these are appropriate. Normally you would need it to be around 90% to be effective as a disinfectant, but there are some old-timers that love to use it for their airlock liquid. But there are some things that need to be sanitized in the brewing process that have a flavor component. Or maybe you want to help extract as much flavor as possible from, say, vanilla beans, which have alcohol-soluble flavors. Or maybe you wanted to use oak cubes that weren't just oaky, but also scotchy. So they get a bonus points in their rating because it's useful for controlling the flavor of your brew, while at the same time killing off any bacteria or microbials that could infect your brew. Could you use Star San in place? Probably. But just like when you're cooking, why use water when you could use something with flavor like wine or stock? And speaking of just using something better, potassium metabisulfite and sodium metabisulfite work. 8 teaspoons to a gallon in 5 minutes contact time. Not great. Plus, it's better for wine than beer, and avoid it if all possible. I'd use it over the bleach, but that's not really saying that much. This is useful if you have nothing else available to you and the homebrew store is closed. Moving forward, we're heading into the controversial section. Not all white powders are the same. For example, Straight A may look a lot like Easy Clean, but Straight A needs to be rinsed. While they share some ingredients, Straight A is a more robust cleaner, whereas Easy Clean is easier on the cleaning, harder on the sanitizing. Also, it's no rinse. So that means Easy Clean scores higher at a alright, and Straight A is a don't use it if you don't have to. And the only reason Easy Clean doesn't score higher is because there are so many better products out there. And the reason why there's so much confusion about whether or not they're sanitizers is a legal distinction. And if you know what, if you're that concerned about it, move up to the next level of sanitizer and you won't have to think about it anymore. And if you're still wondering what the professionals use, usually something acid-based or iodine-based like this IO-Star. And we use it as our secondary sanitizer. And for those that don't know, a secondary sanitizer isn't a sanitizer you use for your secondary fermenter. It's the one you use in case you get resiliency from your Star San or other sanitizer. It happens. It's called evolution. The professionals choose it because iodine-based sanitizers are some of the most powerful ones out there. They can also be sprayed, are pretty cost-effective, and have a long-standing tradition in brewing, so people trust it. And if there was room for two at the top, then IO-Star would stand right next to Star San. But unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. Plus, Star San still gets some bonus points for its foaming action. That is a huge benefit for amateur brewers and people that are doing this for a hobby versus risking their life at work. So that's the conclusion. Star San is the #1 for a reason. Confessions from an ex-homebrew store employee? This is not an upsell. We really want you to use Star San because it will give you the best results for the dumbest brewers regardless. But hey, check out some of these other videos and don't forget to check out our affiliate link down in the description below.